Of Motor Trend Television. I'm John Matthews. Today's show is all about American-bred muscle. First, we'll match the new Dodge Viper against the Corvette Z06, and our editors are taking sides. After that, 40 years of Carroll Shelby's legendary Cobras. It's all coming up next on Motor Trend Television.
Hey, this is Chris Walton. This is the first time I've ever been in a 427 SC Cobra, and this thing is serious. Listen to this.
Legendary is a word often associated with performance car icon Carroll Shelby. Why? Well, being the father of one of the most revered sports cars on the planet has something to do with it. Here's a look at 40 years of the Shelby Cobra, then and now.
Before Carroll Shelby's name became rooted in performance car legend, Shelby gained fame as a race car driver. His many wins included the 1959 24 Hours of Le Mans. A heart condition ended his driving career, but not his hand in racing. He went on to build the fastest, most fiercely competitive car of its day. In the early 1960s, the Cobra legend was born.
Well, you know, the small block Cobra went out and they beat the Corvettes and the Ferraris in the 60s. Cars that were traditionally esteemed as being, you know, the mark to beat. And when you take the top dog and you knock him off his pedestal, it creates legends.
The genius of Cobra was fairly simple. Shelby combined the aluminum-bodied Ace Roadster from British manufacturer AC Cars with Ford's relatively lightweight compact V8. Eventually, Shelby squeezed an even larger engine into the car.
The engineering of the Cobras was absolutely state-of-the-art at the time. The 289 car has leaf springs, which were basically all they had at the time. The 427 actually has coilover shocks and A-arms, which at the time was just revolutionary.
Less than 2,000 of the 1960s Cobras were built, and today the survivors command hefty collector prices. But in the mid-90s, Shelby American began production again. These brand new historics have just enough modern improvements to increase the car's structural durability. Both the 427 SC Cobra and the 289 FIA Cobra are available as either fiberglass or aluminum-bodied roadsters. Customers purchase a rolling chassis from select dealers and then add the engine and transmission to their own specifications. Our test 427 SC came with a 427 cubic inch V8. Yes, displacement here is still measured in cubic inches, and it makes a massive 488 horsepower, priced with this engine somewhere north of $90,000. The smaller 289 FIA car houses a 302 cubic inch V8 rated at 350 horsepower. Like the 427, it's mated with a 4-speed manual. With the engine and transmission, the price here is a little less, about $70,000. Handling either one of these time machines is a very different experience, one most of today's drivers have never had.
There's not a lot of the new technology that makes a new car easy to drive. The steering wheels are right in your lap, and there's no power steering. The clutch pedal's like a leg press machine at a Nautilus club. And, you know, it takes a lot of effort.
In fact, there's not much new technology on these Cobras at all. No power steering, no ABS, no air conditioning, no stereo. What there is plenty of, according to our Chris Walton, is the pure thrill of driving, especially in the 427.
I was telling my wife that if I had the opportunity, say someone down the street owned one of these 427s, that if I even had the opportunity just to drive it up and down the street, that would make my decade. But to be out here and actually putting the whip to them and getting the best test numbers I can possibly get out of them, I mean, it made my career. I mean, it's one of those legendary moments in a guy's career, especially if you're a car guy writing for a magazine, that I got to drive the tires off of Carroll Shelby's cars.
The 289 FIA also has a raw, in-your-face presence. After shifting into first, releasing the clutch is like poking a dragon with a stick. That iron block V8 wastes no time swinging the tack needle around either. But the modern tire and shock absorber technology forgives a lot of sins in the car's old-style transverse leaf springs. Another item in the back-to-basics department on both cars is the brake system.
Putting the brakes on either of these two old Cobras is it's an experience that everyone should experience, if only to appreciate how good ABS is and how good modern brakes and tires are. That's not to say these are bad at braking, but it certainly is a handful, and it teaches you a lot about car control.
40 years later, Shelby American is still producing machines that get the heart pumping even faster. And though he's become a legend, Carroll Shelby isn't the kind of guy to rest on his laurels. With the rejuvenation of his company, he's created an entirely new car that bears his name. Coming up next, you'll meet that exciting species and see how all three Shelbys do on the track. But first, here's a Motor Trend trivia test for you. How many automobile manufacturers has Carroll Shelby partnered with to market performance cars bearing the Shelby name? We'll have the answer when we come back. Did you guess how many automobile manufacturers Carroll Shelby has partnered with? The answer is 4. Shelby worked with AC Cars and Ford to build the Cobra, Ford again on the Shelby Mustangs, later with Chrysler for cars like the mid-'80s Dodge Charger, and General Motors for the engines in the Series 1.
Not only is Shelby American still building the original Cobras, they've also created an all-new roadster. Think of it as the Cobra for the 21st century. It's called the Shelby Series 1. Let's take a look at how this modern version stacks up against the classic Cobras.
Performance cars sporting the Shelby name have traditionally been based on existing models. For example, the Cobra and the Shelby Mustangs. But the Series 1 is a modern roadster created from the ground up with a generous sprinkling of that magic Shelby DNA.
There's absolutely no doubt that the Series 1 will carry on in Carroll Shelby's tradition. It's a car just like the old Cobras are that has way too much horsepower, but that's just right for us. It's got fantastic styling, it handles beautifully, and it gets the same attention. It's the same amount of specialness in that car that the old Cobras have, that embodies that too bad for words kind of a car. It's just right there with all the other ones.
The Series 1 is every bit a Shelby, but definitely something different from the Cobras. An aluminum double overhead cam GM V8 replaces the old Ford pushrod V8. The ultralight aluminum space frame and carbon fiber body panels save weight and offer impressive torsional stiffness. Base price for the normally aspirated Series 1 is about $142,000. Our supercharged version cost a bit more, about $186,000. But for that premium, horsepower rises from 320 to 450. Exclusivity is a main attraction. Total production will be limited to 500 cars. About half of them are already sold. We spent a day at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and the Motor Trend test track to see how the Series 1 matched up with its older Cobra siblings. Shelbys have always placed a high priority on impressive acceleration.
The 427 Cobra set numerous records for 0 to 100 and back to 0 that took literally 30 years to have any car that would compete with that.
And the 427 demonstrated why it's the stuff of legend. 0 to 60 in 3.9. The quarter mile, and 1185 at 121 miles an hour.
The Shelby guys told me about what to launch at, launched it right out of the box, and it just gripped and shot down the drag strip.
The 289 Cobra sprinted to 60 in just 4.36 seconds and took the quarter mile in 12.74 at just over 108 miles an hour.
The 289 car is no slouch in acceleration either. I mean, it's a little bit peakier than the 427, which has so much low-end torque. For the 289 car, we just rev it a little bit higher, stand on the clutch, and get off a little bit slower because it takes a little bit more time for it to hook up. But once it hooks up, it pulls just as hard and nearly as fast in the quarter mile.
Our Series 1 clocked a 0 to 60 in 4.41 seconds and covered the quarter mile in 12.6 and just shy of 113 miles an hour.
Acceleration testing with Series 1 is all about the launch and getting proper traction. This thing has so much horsepower and the gears are so quick and it revs so freely that you really have to pay attention to the tachometer. It zings up to 6,400 RPM before you can sneeze, and it's time to grab another gear.
In the 600-foot slalom, the 427 took the cones at 68.8 miles an hour. The 289 clocked in at 67.1.
The differences in the two cars are manifest in the way that the steering wheel kicks back a little bit in the 289 car. That's because the wheel's coming off the ground when you're really flogging it around the racetrack. whereas the 427 stays flat, and you can actually slide it a little easier, and that big old wheel sure helps turn that car a little better too.
The Series 1, in spite of its fully adjustable racing-style suspension, trailed the Cobras at a still respectable 66 miles an hour.
The biggest difference in the handling characteristics are that this car has power steering, it turns in very crisp, and this car, you can actually use your fingertips to do it.
In our braking evaluation, the 60-0 numbers of the three cars were remarkably close. The 427 stopped in 135 feet, the 289, 129, and the Series 1 in 130 feet.
There wasn't very much difference in the braking distances or the pedal feel on either the 289 or the 427. They're both pretty old technology, and they both have good rubber on the track. So you're really basically testing the limit of that grip of the rubber.
The Series 1 has huge 4-pot vented disc brakes with plenty of swept area, but unpredictable proportioning and a lack of ABS can make straight, high-speed stops a little challenging. So, which of the Shelbys is the best? Well, all three cars live up to the Shelby legend, and car enthusiasts will each have their own favorite. But for Chris Walton, there's little doubt.
You can tell by the grin on my face that I would absolutely choose a 427. If I could own one, I would definitely get it tomorrow. It's just a matter of saving up the pennies and putting it away, but I will have one day.
Motor Trend Television will be right back. Stay with us.
For more information on what's in today's show, visit us online at www.motortrend.com. This is brought to you by MagnaFlow Straight Through, wide open performance. Visit magnaflow.com to find a dealer near you. And by Uniden, a world without wires.
We hope you've enjoyed this all-American muscle edition of Motor Trend Television. For more about some of what you've seen today, get the new issue of Motor Trend magazine on newsstands now. I'm John Mathias, and for all of us at Motor Trend, thanks for watching. Join us for the next Motor Trend Television.